Welcome to the Jones Zone, a podcast by Darryl and JJ Jones.
So what's the continuing maintenance that are elevator, for example? We'll get to chairlifts too. I'm sorry. I'm just so much more excited about elevators because they're so kind of new on the scene, in my opinion. But what's the continuing maintenance that's required? And does your company do that? How's that aspect?
Yeah. So most home elevators require maintenance around twice a year. And that is something that we have a dedicated service team that we take care of. So it's just part of a program, and we come out.
Are there any warranties that's provided?
Yep. So every elevator that we provide, generally we provide at least a 1-year bumper to bumper plus the manufacturer's parts warranty typically extends much longer than that.
Is there a common malfunction that may happen?
So I wouldn't necessarily call it a malfunction, but a common adjustment that happens, especially with built-in elevators, is as the hoistway settles, sometimes the doors themselves require regular adjustment as part of the warranty period. So most often when that happens, the elevator doesn't even attempt to leave the floor. So it's not like somebody gets, stuck in the elevator. It's just the elevator doesn't work because it senses that the doors are out of position. So we come out, we make adjustments as part of our warranty. Well before the end of the warranty period, those issues are typically put to rest.
So tell me, you've been doing this for a long time. You've got to have some pretty interesting stories. Tell me one of your nice installation stories here.
Sure. So at one point in time, we installed an elevator in a home that at the time became the most expensive home that was sold in the U.S., which was a home in Los Angeles. It was an interesting installation. Very different scale of construction than most of the typical construction project.
Do you know how much it was worth?
The home was 9 figures. That's what I can say. It sold in 9 figers.
Could I get their phone number? I'm joking. And then the elevator?
And the elevator was a small fraction of that.
All right.
That one was interesting because it had sliding doors, and after it was a modern architecture, and after the elevator was installed, they actually wrapped the elevator steel sliding doors with felt, and so it was very interesting interior design. It was just it was a over the top project.
Wow. Have you ever put 2 elevators in the house?
Oh yeah, we've done a number of projects with 2 elevators. I think, in fact, we have a number of those going on right now. There are instances where they want a front of house elevator for the homeowner and guests and a back of house elevator for functionality, for, those are, not every project certainly,
sure.
but they do come along. What's interesting to me is, to sort of contrast that experience with the experience of installing elevators that are primarily and entirely, in some cases, for accessibility. And one project that comes to mind is doing this was actually in Wisconsin, I started my career in Minnesota, which is where our company was founded and where our roots are. We did an elevator for a gentleman. He was quadriplegic and had a sit puff chair. Also, he was very tech savvy, and so he was very early adopter of some of the voice to text and the electronic smart home integration. So he could navigate his home almost entirely independently. Talking to his Android pad, he could turn his lights on and off. He could, and we connected his elevator up. It had automatic doors. We connected his elevator up with his voice control. So he could, from his chair, he could say, elevator, come to floor 1. And the elevator would come to floor 1, the doors would open, he could navigate in. And that was a next level experience because, first of all, I don't think anybody at that point in time had ever done anything like that. This was probably 10 to 12 years ago. So this was, at the time, very cutting edge as far as adaptive technology goes. in terms of the freedom and the change in quality of life that providing that elevator to that man had, he was a young guy, and through, medical circumstances, he couldn't make use of his whole house. And all of a sudden, as a result of a project that we were fortunate enough to be involved in, he could. And that was really great, also very fulfilling.
I can only imagine, because like I had mentioned previously, I've come across so many folks that just need to get out of their two-story and get away from those darn stairs into a single story. So moving them into, frankly, I think even that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, because I think even your what you do is even, they're probably a little bit more happy about oftentimes due to the fact that they get to stay at their house that they love and they bought and they want, opposed to almost being forced to move. So this is just, I can only imagine that. Is there a place in Orange County where there's a majority of elevators or anything like that? I'm thinking of Laguna for some odd reason, because all the...
Orange County's on the list. So right now we have an LA showroom in Agora Hills, so it's just west of the valley. And we have a showroom in Ontario.
Oh, so that's fantastic. So someone that has a budget and they want to shop around, and they can literally come to your showroom and they look at all these various types of elevators and how they look and all that. Oh, that's great. So
we've got different products, from stair lifts to certain elevator floor displays.
Aerolift, everybody. Google Aerolift, and that'd probably be the best way. And I'll get you at the end. We're going to get your information as well, and plus in the show notes we'll have it too. So, how long has Aerolift been doing this?
Aerolift has been in business since 1985.
Wow, ahead of the game. Okay, let's touch a little bit on lifts. We've been focusing in on elevators. I think that's. Well, in my view, was a little bit more interesting. Most of us have seen chairlifts. I know I have. Tell us a little bit more about chairlifts. Is there any new technology that's increased?
There have been some developments in the chairlift technology, especially recently, that enhances safety and usability. So one recent addition to stair lifts is powered footrest, which is something that doesn't necessarily come out as obvious if you are looking at it from a third-party perspective. But when you start thinking about the way that people use a chairlift, riding up a chair on the stairs and getting to the top, one of the processes that you go through is when you ride a stair lift, you get to the top, typically you swivel the chair. And there's a footrest that your feet have been on, and you swivel the chair, and now it's your time to get out of the chair, and then you kind of put it back. Often you fold it up so that people can walk up and down the stairs without tripping over the lift. But you've got this little footrest at the bottom that sticks out, and it's in a really bad spot. And historically, there have been a variety of sort of mechanical linkages, or, kick the footrest up with your foot, or pull this lever, all of which almost invariably require you to do some sort of leaning out towards the stairway that you bought this product to avoid, going out over. And so now, certainly one of the manufacturers has as a standard a simple push button where you push a button and the footrest motorized folds itself up. So it's one of those things like, auto folding mirrors on a car or something where, at first it seems kind of maybe not that important, but when you look at how customers use these lifts, it's actually very positively safety impacting. And it's a little change and hasn't really impacted the costs of stair lift.
I'm sure they have voice command for those if one needed. We were talking about that elevator, but...
on the stair lifts, it's actually interesting. Stair lifts, because they travel in space without a full enclosure around them, you have to press and hold the controls down to move it. So that actually takes it out of the possibility of voice command, but you do have remotes. So you have easy remotes at the landings where you can press and hold the control. There are a lot of adaptive aids with stair lifts as well. Things like easier levers to operate or seat belts or harnesses, that sort of thing.
What is the weight limit for chairlifts?
Most chairlifts, the weight capacity is between 350 and 400 pounds. So 350 is sort of the standard, and then there are high capacity stair lifts that run up to 400 pounds.
And it's based on money. If you got the money, you can go all the way up. No?
400 pounds is actually pretty...
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, pretty much hard limit. Once upon a time, there was a company that made a 500-pound capacity stair lift, but it pretty much blocked the stairs.
Wow.
And it wasn't... so not really a thing anymore. 400 pounds is really the max, functionally speaking.
And what about the curved staircases?
Yeah.
Those are all... pretty much most any staircase can be done. Would that be fair to say?
That is very fair to say. The sole exception would be a staircase that's so steep that, you're going to be...
We call that an elevator.
Yeah, exactly. There is a point where a stair... And even, from a safety code standpoint, 75 degrees, it becomes an elevator, and you've got different rules. So functionally speaking... stair lifts generally stay at 45 degrees or less.
Any stair, you just have to modify it a little bit.
Yeah, we don't even typically have to modify stairs. It's very rare that stairs have an issue where we can't mold the stair lift rail to the stairs rather than the other way around.
Oh, that's great. So any kind of, it's a custom house and it's got a unique curve in the stairs.
Yep.
You guys can mold it to...
Absolutely.
That's a huge deal.
Yep.
Wow. And then now what about on chairlifts maintenance? What type of maintenance do you require?
Typically once a year. And it's come out, we do a routine maintenance, oil and grease, adjust, make sure battery voltages are good and that sort of thing. Make sure that everything's in top shape. Check all the safety devices and whatnot.
That they're powered by battery?
So stair lifts almost across the board are powered by batteries.
I did not know that.
So
Elon will be happy about that.
Very simple.
Yeah. All right. And then, of course, elevators, though, are you're hooked up to your...
Yeah. Typically, elevators are hooked up to the mains power and have some form of battery lowering so that if in a power outage, you're not stuck.
Got it. Oh, that's a good point. Back to elevators, because that's obviously the more costly solution to this issue. I know you mentioned bottom line $30,000 and up. I'm guessing in Orange County, maybe it's actually maybe a little bit more than $30,000 and up.
Yeah, I would say especially in California, typically homeowners for a built-in elevator are spending, starting in the high 40s, most people spend around $50K. There are, again, a lot of high-end homes that spend a lot more than that on elevators, but for a nice, reliable home elevator that's built into your house, that has all of the proper safety devices installed professionally by a company that's taking care of it, high 40s to $50K is probably a good expectation in this particular market.
And this is one of the one things. Shoes, beds, elevators, attorneys, real estate agents. These are the things that you don't want to skimp on. What about financing? Do you guys offer any sort of financing?
So,
how's that work?
Good question. On stair lifts, we do. We do financing on stair lifts. A lot of stair lifts go into applications where someone's on a fixed income, and so we do offer direct financing. Most of our home elevator options, the elevator is typically wrapped into a construction loan. And so if somebody's looking for financing, typically they'll work with a third-party lender, local credit union or whatnot, and the elevator will get pulled into the construction loan.
Like a second or a HELOC, a home equity line.
Something like that.
I don't know if we talked about the cost of lifts. What's the range of the cost of lifts?
In Southern California, a straight stair lift, typically $4,000 to $6,000, and most people spend about $5,000. For curved stair lifts, you're going to start in the low teens, and depending on the home, depending on the complexity of the stairs, depending on the number of flights, there are multi-story townhomes where we've done inside stair lifts that go 4 levels, and some of those can be in the 20s or 30,000s.
I think anybody that has kids would like to ride that. Can we give the address out?
Yeah, I will tell you, as a child, I did my fair share of riding on stair lifts.
4-story chairlift.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. They need to put that at Disneyland.
Yeah.
That'd be a good ride. Well, Joe, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I appreciate you coming in and telling us this. I've been wanting someone that does what you do for ever since I started the thought of having this podcast, because it's just such an incredible need that our society has. So I appreciate that. And Joe, for anybody that wants to get a hold of you, how would one get a hold of you?
You can email us at info@arrowlift.com. Me personally, I can be reached at joe@arrowlift.com.
Arrowlift's all one word.
Arrowlift, ARROWLIFT.com. All one word.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Hopefully you found that useful, and maybe this is helpful to someone that you know and love. So again, thanks for watching another episode of the Jones-Sode. Joe, thanks for coming, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Bye-bye.